Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Social Shifters podcast. I am joined by a very special guest, the winner of the 2023 Climate Challenge Award, Ceri, founder of Lome Labs, and what a privilege it is to be with you. Hi, Ceri.
Hi, Jemiah. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be here and to talk more.
No, thank you. It's been a privilege, and out of all of the brilliant and special, applications that we get, it's such a privilege on my side to be able to sit here with yourselves and all the other winners of the different categories and find out more about yourselves and your journey. So what set you on your path, Ceri, as being a social entrepreneur?
I think I have to immediately think back to when I was 14 and my mum actually fell ill with a chronic illness, and she was in agonizing pain. And it was only after coming across this video that explained the interconnection between diet and health, and that she made changes in her diet, that she started to see major improvements. And there was like this light bulb that went off in my head, where now it seems very obvious and I feel like we talk about it a lot, but this was like over a decade ago. Wow. And talking about like diet and health, it wasn't just so on the forefront, wasn't quite the thing yet. And that basically just ignited this urge inside of me to understand more deeply the connection between human health, planetary health, animal health, and how it's actually all just one version of health. And through that, I've now discovered that the microbiome, so the living little creatures that are living in our soil, plays a huge influence on like the health of all other systems, ecosystems, human systems, planetary systems. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm focusing on.
That's a really special origin story, and it makes total sense. Like you said, like a decade ago, it was nowhere near the conversation as heavy on certain things as health, even the different aspects of health. Like you said, it's all interconnected with the planet, ourselves, the animals, mental health, all these different elements of health, which are widely more spoken about. So now that's a really, really cool story and very personally motivated, obviously. So like for someone on the outside looking in who hasn't got the kind of experience and knowledge that you would have of around this area, how would you describe the importance of this like subject and why you were fueled to actually find out more and make something happen?
So I would say I work in the realm of soil degradation. So how can we bring soil back to life? And currently in Europe, 60 to 70% of soils are degraded, which is like a mind-blowingly large number. And to like make that maybe a bit more tangible, that's the land mass of France and Germany combined. So that's huge. And currently we're on the trajectory that by 2050, if we don't do anything else, 90% of the world's soils will be degraded. And soil is actually, well, I like to quote Satish Kumar from this. Okay. Soil is, everything comes from the soil and everything returns to the soil. And so soil is like the natural capital that all capital depends on. It is the soil health that is all health depends on. And so the scale of this is huge. I mean, you eat, 3 times a day, maybe twice, maybe a bit more, who knows, some stuff in between. But it's such a part of like our everyday life. And yeah, I think none of us really take a moment to actually think about the soil and what's going on with it. So it's a very important topic because I really feel like it's the root cause of a lot of other issues that we're facing now, such as like flooding and droughts. Like soil is actually the modulator between like water storage and flow. And yeah, there's so much more that can go onto it. Like once you like start noticing what the soil microbiome does, it like opens up a rabbit hole for you to realize how interconnected it is to all other ecosystems.
That makes sense. And something you said there about like the soil, it kind of reminded me back to being in geography class back in the day. And I was just wondering, is that kind of like when you speak about the soil, is that linked in some way to like deforestation in terms of how you said, in terms of what it can hold? I don't know if I even that a good question, but like, is there capacity if we degrade the soil so much, does it lose its ability to hold the water, and that leads to maybe like flooding and different other aspects in addition to the food? Is that kind of...
So like to really break it down, it's the relationship between different types of little creatures, organisms, microorganisms in the soil that actually allow certain life to flourish. So in ecology, there's this thing called succession. So you have like right at the very beginning, like mainly bacteria, like focused soils, and then they kind of get more and more complex and more biodiverse. Actually, I think there was a recent study in that The Guardian really shared, and it was like the majority of biodiversity and like exists in our soils. And we actually, as much as there's biodiversity loss above ground, that's actually reflected or even magnified below ground. And it's the below ground biodiversity that actually upholds and actually allows for other ecosystems to flourish. So if there's not certain microorganisms, such as fungi in forests, then the forests actually have nowhere to put down or to store like carbon, for example, because they form these relationships with one another, and that's actually it's all interconnected. They're all working with one another, and it is the relationships between them that actually allow for ecosystems to function. So to allow water to flow, to be to go down into the groundswell, the groundwater, to move away and not. So at the moment with farming, you know, like really compacted soils. I focus a lot on farmlands and working with farmers. And so a lot of heavy machinery compacts our soils. What happens when water comes down, it just sits there and it goes sideways. And it doesn't, and it takes the soil with it. And it doesn't then infiltrate and then go down below the surface. So yeah, it gets really complicated, and I'm by no means an expert. I'm also just genuinely curious, and I have that thirst to just learn more about it. And I think even people within this field it's a burgeoning field. There's still so much coming out of it. So it's an interesting space to watch, because every year new research comes out and we're learning so much more about the role of soil.
No, that sounds super interesting, to be fair. I'm like, yeah, geeking out over here listening to what you're saying. So yeah, no, I love that. So you know when you said about like the 60-70% like degradation, is there a particular region or part of the world where the soil is particularly bad or particularly good, either way, like that's doing really well or is in need of like desperate help, or is it all around the same kind of level?
Yeah, I think where you see soil degradation the most is where there has been heavy machinery or like plowing that's being done to the soil. It's basically anywhere that the soil gets very disturbed.
Okay.
Soil likes to be like kept kind of tucked under cover with lots of plants on top of it, with like different roots going into it, with like a lot of diversity. And so when you're seeing these landscapes where there's just cut, you know, and
Okay.
there's only one thing growing on it, and like that one thing only has a certain amount of roots, and then they're coming along and there's pesticides and herbicides and fertilizers being used, which also have a complicated relationship with how they affect the soil microbiome. It's not such an easy thing just to explain in like one go, but yeah, there's it leads to complications in the soil and how it functions, and therefore how plants can be healthy. And these are the soils that are in dire need of our support. But I would say anywhere that actually has like nothing on top of it. So not deserts, those are different landscapes entirely. Yeah, maybe this is a good way to also say what is soil. Soil is like it's the mixture of parent material, so like rocks, minerals that have like decomposed along with organic matter, and that's like, you know, dead leaves, dead bark, and then also the biological aspect of it, organisms that are living in. So it's like the component of these three things that are making up our soil. So, and any soil that is then left bare, where these microorganisms are then exposed to the elements, so like water, sun, heat, cold, these are the soils that really need more help and care and tending to.
That makes total sense, and I really like the analogy, like you said, like they like being tucked, soil like being tucked under the duvet. Yeah, that's really cool. So this kind of leads on to what you're doing at Lome Labs and all the special work. So can you like talk about like what Lome Labs is doing and kind of the importance of the incredible work you're doing over there?
So yeah, Lome Labs helps farmers gain biological insights into their soil health. And I'm now also using artificial intelligence in order to help accelerate and propel those insights. Mainly it's working with microscopy. So having a direct access and looking exactly, I look outside always because that's actually where there's a piece of land, and I always want to just look and
Nice.
because it's there, and I'm getting the inspiration because that's actually where I work most of my time.
Oh,
But
no.
yeah. So it's taking samples from the soil, being able to count what those certain like bacteria or fungi counts are, so how many there are, how diverse they are, and then if those are in low in numbers, then needing to create different biological amendments. So these little, like, I guess it's like compost or tinctures or teas that you then apply back onto the soil in order to kickstart that ecosystem again, in order to diversify those organisms again. And so, yeah, right now I'm really very much focusing on developing this technology to help kind of speed up that work, because it can take a very long time taking these soil samples, looking down the microscope, manually counting everything. And artificial intelligence, particularly computer vision technology, can really help accelerate and move that along. So I'm working with that right now.
When you said computer vision as well, it reminded me of back like gaming, because I studied a bit gaming, so I used to use obviously computer vision in gaming and stuff. So it's really cool to hear it applied to different areas, and like especially such an important one
Yeah,
outside like.
technology and ecology, like I love mixing these two together. I don't see them as antithetical in the slightest. I feel like they can really reinforce and be harnessed for the betterment of both.
No, I love that. And like with just on even as you said that, like the mix, I love that because there's some people who are a bit worried about say AI. And so like what made you would think, actually, do you know what? Like we're gonna use AI, we're gonna use this very cool technology, very new technology. Well in its current iteration anyway, very new. What made you think, okay, let's incorporate AI into this to help us with our mission?
Yeah, I love this question. And I think it's mainly because I believe that technology is not neutral. It is the people who are developing and creating the technologies and the intentions that they have behind it, and the consciousness or lack of consciousness in which they instill these technologies with certain power dynamics or paradigms or ways of thinking that then actually lead to increasing harm. Um, I studied science and technology studies actually at school, at university, and so we were often talking about how it's really important that if like with technologies when they're being created, that they need to um, be created with a sense of awareness of the proliferation of harm that can be done, and you have to be really aware of like the unintended consequences of it. And I
100%.
feel like in my space, a lot of people in like, let's say they're into permaculture or nature, like they seem antithetical to like being in the tech space. But I feel like it's exactly these types of people that need to be coming into the tech space. I think we need more transdisciplinary collaboration between, people in tech, people in business, people in, ecology, because I think that's how you develop a really robust technology. And so I don't know, I kind of went in like, I'm the exact type of person that should be developing this AI because I have that understanding of the natural world, at least I try to, and also to involve farmers as well in the development of this, so the people it will be trying to serve.
Yeah.
You could see somehow like, with social media, and they also use AI, like with their algorithms. You can see how in the wrong hands, something like this, like a social network, which is meant to connect and democratize information, metastasized into
Yeah.
like dopamine addiction cesspit. So I feel like I mean, I use social media, but like, there's a way in which you can create technology and harness it without proliferating harm. At least that's my.
No, 100%. And there are some, like, even on your point of social media, there are some trying to almost go against the grain and create new social networks where you maybe limit the amount of people who you interact with or the amount of time and stuff. So that makes total sense. And I guess, like, how how big is your team at Lome Labs? Because you sound like you're doing a wonderful amount of work and a lot of cool things.
Yeah, so currently it's just me, but I collaborate a lot with other people who have studied the same microbiology course as me. And I get involved with, and I always involve people when I'm needing extra help. I'm also looking in 2024 to find another founder with me, because I am noticing and already recognizing that I have certain skill set and I need help with some other skill sets. But for example, when I want to host a workshop that's in Spain, especially because this farmer speaks Spanish, I collaborate and work with people who speak Spanish who have also studied my program. So I've developed a very strong network to be able to get myself as far as I am right now. I'm really for collaboration over competition and bringing more people on for the ride rather than to like separate
Love
everything.
that. I love that collaboration over competition. First of all, well done. Seriously, well done. Because you're all of that stuff you're just speaking about, and you're just leading that charge on your own is actually tremendous. So how do you kind of like? Because you said that you've developed that really strong network, and I find that's something that a lot of like young entrepreneurs, especially when you're starting out, unless you're born into like a privileged household who've got like loads of networks or connected family and so forth. How do you kind of grow? How did you find your and grow your network basically?
Yeah, this is a really good question. Um, I would say definitely even through joining different programs such as like the Global Innovation Challenge that Social Shifter hosts. Even that I've had people reach out to me through LinkedIn and also through like the Circle space that you host. And although nothing has come directly through there, I have had through yeah, getting more involved in these forums, right?
Yeah.
That organizations and programs often have. And it's reaching out and it's saying, hi, I'm Ceri and this is what I'm doing and what are you doing? And oh, that sounds really cool. Like what could we maybe do together? It's just, I feel like maybe I can be quite an extroverted person. And so I feel like that really helps
Yeah.
for people who maybe struggle with reaching out and just kind of cold calling people. I would say that's really an area of development to like work on, like just getting some basics down, like how to just say in like a couple of words what you're doing, and also not to take yourself so seriously. I feel like that really helps. And the more you do it, the less scary it gets. But yeah, I actively seek out spaces and places, like going to events, looking what's happening online, and I share. I used to stay quiet and like not say anything, but that's not actually helping anyone. I think having this belief that like I have this project that I'm working on, and I actually need more people to get involved with it. I need more contacts because more people really need this idea. Really, that shifting that really helped me feel like, oh, I want to actually reach out and talk more to people. And
Yeah.
so that mindset shift also really helped.
And so that kind of mindset shift you mentioned there, would you say that kind of like came with time with you doing things, or do you listen to like any podcasts or read any books when you think that kind of like, well, actually, do you know what? I'm going to shift that mindset and I'm going to get
Mhm.
louder and prouder.
Yeah. So, yeah, I've been a part of another program. I'm not sure if I can shout it out here, but yeah, it's called the Be Visioneers program, and there was
Yeah.
also a huge section on personal sustainability.
Nice.
And yeah, there was a lot of things, like when you're starting a company, I feel like you can figure out the business stuff and you can figure out all the admin stuff, but like if your mindset is not there, you're going to give up at the first hurdle. And so yeah, I just went through there, and there were like exercises and practices and reflections that I did, basically like looking back on your whole like life and certain inflection points, right? Like your highest highs and your lowest lows, and yeah, just becoming kind of a bit more conscious about your thoughts. I feel like that really helped put things into perspective, and when you write things, also journaling, right? You write something down, you get like quite literally a different perspective.
Yeah.
So that can also really help. Um, I think I'm also just really lucky that I have fantastic friends who are also interested in this. And I don't listen to anything in particular, but I feel like I get sent stuff all the time. And then I just like, what
Yeah.
do you do? And I'm like, oh yeah, thanks for that. That was really great. Thank you. Yeah, I should go and say thank you to my friends more for sending me fantastic resources.
Yeah. So that's really cool. So earlier when you was looking out the window, you was talking about like, you looking at the land or something that inspires you. And you said, I think, did you say that was somewhere you work a lot out there?
Yeah, so right now we're in my office, but this is also in a house that I live with other people. And we have about 2 acres.
Oh,
Uh, and we rent a part of it as well out to create like a market garden, and we grow a lot of our own food. I'm in actually some situation. I'm in like the agricultural belly of Germany. I'm in a place called Lower Saxony. It's kind of northwest,
yeah.
and everything all around me is just fields, 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 fields of potato farms and kohlrabi and I don't know, carrots. And yeah, we have this little piece here of paradise that is more like permaculture, and it's like full of biodiverse insects and birds. And yeah, so I spent a lot of time there. That was kind of like my stepping stone, my stepping stage, where I've been learning a lot more and getting that physical um, uh, experience. as well as now working on farms more as a research positions. So this was kind of my stepping stone. So this is where it all started. Yeah, it's my garden. It's called the experimentation station because it's all about just experimenting when it comes to gardening or growing your own food rather.
Amazing. That sounds so cool. So, like, how would you, with all of the cool things you've been doing, there's a lot, I love everything you have said, especially like the mix, the ecology and technology. That's amazing. What would you say your biggest impact has been so far with Lome Labs?
So I think my biggest impact is yet to come, but it's very close. I
Right.
am just started a research position at a 150-hectare biodynamic farm, and this is where my prototype has been developed. And we're about to invite farmers to come and test the beta version of it, and host soil biology workshops, all thanks to actually the Global Innovation Challenge grant that I won. And this is so exciting because it's the first time that farmers will be able to come and interact and see Loam in action, which is the AI. We'll be able to go and do like soil samples, and also they'll be able to bring maybe some of their own soil, and we could do a little comparison. And yeah, we'll be conducting a case study in the next year where the farm has just taken over what was previously a monoculture for corn to create biogas. And so yeah, we're looking at that and taking soil samples from that compared to their older systems of biodynamic farming that use like compost and soil amendments, and also what will the trajectory and the change look like on that field that just gets taken over, and also using loam in order to get those to get that case study underway. So I feel like I'm just at the start, even though a lot has gone in to get to this point.
Yeah.
But the year ahead looks very, very exciting for us.
That sounds incredibly exciting and very, very cool. Have you ever like considered, I don't know if you do it, you may do it already. Have you ever considered like vlogging or like your own podcast? Because your journey, your story is so cool, and like you sound like you're coming to this crescendo moment of some explosion. Things
So,
about to happen.
my previous career was in marketing.
Yeah.
I like to say that I composted that career, and what came out of it was this. um, yeah, I have considered it. I think there's maybe a bit more mindset work that has to be done around being on camera and doing. Yeah, I feel like I needed to step away a little bit from working on the computer, and
Yes.
there was this moment where I worked in like climate change storytelling essentially. And so I felt like I was talking about these stories a lot and visiting the sites where people were doing ecosystem restoration. And I think it's such important work being a storyteller. But I had this like honest reflection of like, but this is not where my skill set is.
Yeah.
I actually want to be the person on the other side who is actually digging their hands into the soil. And that has been a transformation in like the last 3 years that has come about really strongly. And yeah, but I feel like it needs to make a comeback because I really believe in the power of storytelling. I think it has a huge it can influence people in a way that can create change that's bigger than just this plot of land that I'm on. And I'm also interested in having a bigger impact than just what's right physically here.
I can see the passion that it exudes and permeates from you, and the way you speak, you're like you articulate yourself very well, and your story and like just everything is great. And I think like I'm here getting inspired just listening to you. So I'm thinking like of all the other people out and around, the world and stuff who would hear you, be like, and even like I always say to some of my friends who are like starting their own businesses or doing their own things, like whether they're in fitness or window cleaning, whatever it is, like I always say to like even document your own life in some ways, because even if you don't share it publicly, it's cool to look back, if you have children or grandchildren, etc., in the future, and be like, hey, look what I was like. It's like you have it captured. It's your own little private story, of your own documentary of your life. So yeah, just that was just something that came to mind. Yeah, super
Yeah,
cool. Yeah.
yeah. I will watch this space. Maybe something is coming.
I'll be keeping an eye out, definitely, for sure. So what you that was just talking about your biggest impact or where you think it's about to happen. What would you say has been your biggest challenge so far?
Yeah, I feel like there's so many challenges, so many unforeseen risks and fires that you have to put out, metaphorical fires.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the biggest challenge that I've been through, specifically with Lome Labs, was I it has to come back to mindset. So I got accepted onto this accelerator program that then I would get a stipend and I would be able to like work full time on my project and get paid for it. This was like earlier on. And as when I was working without the AI, more just like in soil biology and moving more into soil consultancy. And yeah, a week before I was meant to join, I had to be pulled from the program because it turned that I wasn't eligible for it due to some, like I had been paid from the same fund when I previously worked at a startup. So it was like this thing I wasn't even so aware of. So let's just say something came out of left field. I had to be pulled, and I had like set up my next year based off of the prediction that like this was going to be happening. And within a week, I had to like pivot, quite literally, like pivot so hard. And I feel like if I hadn't done all that mindset work before, of like particularly like learner and growth mindsets, like seeing biggest challenges not as something that's it's kind of like it feels like you're taking 10 steps back, but actually you're falling forward always.
Yeah.
And actually, yeah, and then I had to just be resilient. Like resiliency is your ability to bounce back from hardship. And I feel like I had just been learning theoretically all of these things, and all of a sudden I had to like really say, no, I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to find other opportunities. I'm going to like get this money from a part-time job here. I'm going to like ramp up this. Like the focus that came in that moment, I had to pivot, was actually so inspiring. I think I then produced like my greatest strategy out of that. You know? So, and then after that week, yeah, I everything fell and came together, and that was really. But that could have been really challenging. I think it would have been really easy for me to have just like thrown in the towel and been like, no, I'm just going to go back to like social media communication and management. You know, I'm going to not work on this. But I don't know. Yeah, in that and I've done that before with other projects, but this time it was different. This time I was not going to give up so easily, and I think it was really that mindset work that really helped me, and also having community and friends to talk to about all of this. I really feel like the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your relationships. I think Brown says this. That's someone I like. I can note that one down. Yeah, and then just having them say, no, like you've got this, and you know, you can do it this way, and yeah, not feeling like I was doing this hard pivot all alone, but that there was other people who were there supporting me. I think that was really, really, really important. So yeah, mindset and community.
That I'd say summarizes the biggest lesson I guess you learned from that mindset and community, and I think that's a really powerful lesson for all of us. I agree with you as well about the quality of our relationships being a massive impact on our quality of our life for sure.
Yeah, I think it would have been so easy for me to have been like, oh, I failed, or I didn't read the fine print so much, and how did I get myself into that scenario, right? I think it's so easy for the inner critic to come out and then just like put you down. But something shifted, and I was like, no, this is an opportunity. What else is there? Maybe this wasn't for me. Oh, actually, this is going to come up, you know? And this is what I mean by you actually fall forward always.
Yeah. You know, I listen to a lot of what Gary Vee says, because he's always about mindset, humility, positivity, your friends, all these different things. And like, he talked a lot about grit and resilience and stuff like you said there. Resonated a lot with me. So no, I love that. So like, what is your vision, Ceri? Like, where would you like to see Lome Labs in, say, the next 5 years or beyond?
So my grand mission is to help farmers transition away from chemical agriculture, which sought to have power over nature, to biological agriculture, which harnesses the power of nature. And so that can take many forms, right? That's like a really big vision, to shift an entire system that is very entrenched in a lot of other like subsidies, political agendas, and just how it actually physically functions with the current infrastructure that is set up right now. And yeah, I see Lome Labs as like at the start of doing that, by being able to help farmers who are trying to transition actually get the help and support that they need in order to do that. It's not so easy to be like, oh, you've been farming for 20 years, one crop, and needing to use a pesticide in order to keep things down, to then say, oh, we're going to now start planting like even just 2 different varieties, let alone like 20.
Yeah.
So especially because the soil is not built for that yet, your crop will fail because you don't have those mutually beneficial organisms in there. And so loam, I'm trying to kind of minimize the risk and the chances of failure so that farmers can feel safe enough to even transition. And yeah, I also feel like my grand vision in this space, so that's more Lome Labs, but I think my grand vision is also just to see more people farming.
Okay.
I think we need more farmers. Like right now, I think it's something like 30% of farmers are age 65. So they're about to retire. There's an aging population in the farming community. And there's currently no one, like farming is not really sexy right now,
Yeah.
Everyone wants to live kind of like, there's been an increase in the last 20th century up till now in urbanization. And there needs to be somehow a return to like small scale farming if we are to like continue feeding our planet in a way that is sustainable. So I'll be somewhere in that space. I envision a world where like there's more people who are farming in a way that is taking care of the earth, and in a way where they feel supported and they have the knowledge and the tools and able to do that. Because it's one thing saying it, but it's like practically, like if you don't have the skills to be able to execute that vision, then it's not going to happen and you're going to have a failed crop.
Incredible. Amazing. Love all of that. And something you said there about the farming really resonated because as you said that 60% age and population, yeah, makes total sense. And I've seen a few some random offshoots came in. Like I've seen something on people talking about certain skills like seamstress and like sewing and stuff, like and certain tailors and like there's going to be a shortage of that because a lot of the younger people aren't learning that.
I think there was also recently this idea of like useless jobs,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like it will never not be useful. It will
Yeah.
never not be needed. Yeah, I feel like there's nothing more exciting about that. And
Mhm.
also the fact that like your deadlines aren't really determined by some like arbitrary, C-level executive. Determined by the natural cycles. There's nothing more motivating than like, oh, I have to pick up the leaves now, or I have to cut the wood now,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
be able to create compost out of it. And yeah, there's these natural deadlines, which I don't know, there's something so motivating about
Yeah.
that. And I feel like people don't realize that. They don't know what's there. And I think more people need to go out and experience farming, or just like trying to grow some food, even if it's just like some basil or like microgreens in the apartment. Like I feel like it can make a huge difference, or like at least sow the seeds.
So for me, I can use myself as an example, okay? I'm here in the UK, so I don't know anything about farming. I've been inspired by listening to what you've said. I'm a younger person, so I can get involved in say I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, okay, cool. Where do I start? So I don't know anything about farming. Well, I don't have any farmland or anything like that. How and where can I start, or would you recommend, say, someone like myself starting if they would want to pivot into this kind of way of life?
It's such a good question. And I feel like first, it's always like to follow your curiosity. So if you're noticing like, oh, I'm interested in growing microgreens on my balcony, like just start with one and just, start there and then continue following your curiosity. But if you're wanting more of like an overview, I think you mentioned something really important, which is access to land. That's a really huge issue. But a place to start is always looking at a community supported agriculture scheme. So they're called CSAs. I don't know if you've heard about them. They're in Germany, they're called Solidarität Landwirtschaft. So it's like
Hey.
solidarity farming. And often it's a small scale farmer who has a veg box scheme of some sort. If you type it in for your area, I'm sure you'll find some. They're often on the outskirts. And they then often offer the chance to come in once, twice a month, sometimes a year. I think they're normally quite flexible in the degree in which you then start coming to the land and farming. But that's also a great way to start, like just starting to even think about where is it that I'm getting my food from and in what ways in which it was grown. Maybe even just starting there, like maybe not even actually having to like go out and change where you get all of your foods, but just start thinking and becoming a bit more conscious about that. Like, where did this banana come from? Oh, it came from Iceland. Did you know Iceland is actually one of the biggest growers of bananas? Like, that's so bizarre, but yeah. See, even that, you start thinking like, that is actually really crazy. Um, and then, yeah, and then if you're wanting to actually start farming, obviously just on your balcony, on your windowsill, get something. And then if you're wanting to take it a bit more seriously, then looking at allotments. Allotments are a huge thing in the UK. Trying to find one. And it often takes, I think a lot of people try and do these things online, like they're like, which is a good place to start. But I think if you're wanting to really like get a spot, it always pays off when you go and visit and you're like, hi, I'm here and I'm interested and I just want to see what's going on. But in the UK, I really love Charles Dowding. He's also doing a lot of good things in this space around trying to get people more access to land. He's a seasoned grower, I think in Somerset, and he has a fantastic YouTube channel. And that's also a good place to start, YouTube. Amazing. See, I love social networks. Like, yeah, YouTube. Yeah, Charles Dowding is a really, really good resource just to know what to plant and when. But yeah, honestly, follow your curiosity. I started, I think, also mainly just sprouting like my lentils just to see them grow, and because they're also more digestible in this form. So that's also counted as growing.
Great advice. So if you could go back and speak to your younger self before you've started Lome Labs, what piece of advice would you give to your younger self?
I think it would be to seek out these social innovation and entrepreneurial spaces sooner. So look more and for programs such as Social Shift, as the Global Innovation Challenge, such as the other ones that I've been a part of, like really seek these spaces out, because from there you get given the structure, the kind of the blueprint to bring your idea about. And honestly, without those resources, such as like business model Canva or like the things that needed to be included in a pitch, I would not have been able to deliver or get as far as I am now. And not only just for like the resources that they share, but like really get involved in like talking to people and getting used to talking about your project and what you're doing, building your confidence around, yeah, spreading the word, being seen, doing the thing that you really love doing, taking yourself seriously, so to say. I think those really took this from a hobby to not like my venture. And then it's okay if it wanted to stay a hobby, but I wanted to work on it. Yeah, and so if you're needing that kickstart, yeah, look for those spaces.
I love it, Ceri. Well, your story's been truly inspiring, and thank you for sharing it with us. It's been a privilege and an honor to sit here. There's so much cool things in there, and it's something that applies and resonates with all, because it's food, like you said, it's farming, it's soils, everything that it's applicable to everyone, right? And it should be important to everyone. So, where, if people want to stay up to date with all things Lome Labs and yourself, where can they find you online? And yeah, plug yourself, plug your socials. We'll put them all in the captions and stuff as well, so people can find.
I'm currently constructing my website, but it should be up by the time this goes live. That's at lome.earth. And then you can be following me on LinkedIn. I'll be also posting more of my journey there. Ceri Fluke, obviously, will be my name. And yeah, I think those would be a good place to start. I will be also having a newsletter, which will be able to sign up through lome.earth. So sign up for that to keep up to date.
No, so thank you so much, Ceri. It's been a pleasure and it's been an honor. And yeah, congratulations again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
If you want to learn more about social shifters and how we can help you to impact the social or environmental issues that matter to you most, subscribe to our YouTube channel or find us on Instagram and Spotify.